This is the ultimate showdown between the strongest champions in Forged in Fire history. The four former title holders are showing off their skills like there's no tomorrow, and every blade they forge is built to absolute perfection, capable of chopping through nails and steel like a hot knife through butter, bringing the judges an unparalleled thrill. The four champions competing in this episode are the creme de la creme handpicked by the four judges themselves. That's why this contest isn't just a battle between the smiths, it's a face-off between the judges who selected them. For this round, the production team threw out the rulebook. They brought out all their top-shelf steel and premium materials that had been stashed away for ages. What's more, the Gravedigger crew imposed no restrictions on the parameters. The only requirement was to finish the dagger before the clock ran out. By a curious coincidence, even though the show didn't limit the forging techniques, all the smiths unanimously opted for stacked Damascus steel, and each one upped the ante with a more mind-blowing number of layers than the last. Smith Jason first ground and polished the steel, clearing away all surface impurities. This meticulous attention to detail left Ben thoroughly impressed. After all, Jason's wildly innovative squirrel tail blade once earned him the respect of this 12-time champion. Paul only cleaned 13 layers of his Damascus billet before diving straight into welding. His plan was to hammer the blade's outline until it was flawlessly shaped. It was this shared philosophy that made white-bearded David Baker think highly of him, and Paul's grasp of the finer details was truly second to none. Jake was also eager to flaunt his signature Damascus patterns. Handpicked by Nielsen as a master smith, he once hand-hammered a 300-layer Damascus blade. During his very first competition, Blake, the smith certified by Judge Doug, took a different approach. He skipped welding the steel pieces together entirely and tossed the whole stack straight into the forge to heat up. This risky move could trap impurities inside the billet and cause it to delaminate later on. Doug could only cross his fingers and silently wish him luck. Then again, Blake had form for this kind of thing. In past competitions, he'd start off making all sorts of mistakes, only to come roaring back in the final round with extraordinary skill. An hour passed, and all the smiths had finished fusing their steel billets. Jack, relying solely on his hammer and anvil, had already stretched his billet out and begun shaping the blade's tip. After completing his stacked layers, Paul added 2 twists to the mix, aiming to create a one-of-a-kind pattern on the single-edged blade. This time, he hammered the billet with extreme care, pushing himself to the absolute limit. It had the judges on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting his finished product. Blake's billet hit a minor snag, but he used a hydraulic press to straighten it right back out. His progress was slower than the others, and by the time he finished stretching the billet, time was running out fast. He made the bold call to skip the fine-tuning with the hammer and shape the blade directly using a belt grinder. The only question was, just how long would it take to grind down such a thick billet? Only 1 hour remained on the clock. Jack, the fastest of the bunch, was the first to quench his blade. The billet warped a little after quenching, but he simply forced it back into shape with brute strength. After shaping his billet, Paul first drilled a hole at the tang, a critical detail to reinforce the handle later on. Then followed Jack in quenching his blade. Jason's quenching job was nothing short of perfect. His blade came out straight and rock hard. Blake had been grinding away for nearly an hour, yet his blade was still somewhat rough around the edges. With time slipping away, he had no choice but to quench it anyway. The first round of the competition was over. After the judges had deliberated over the four champions' work, one of them would